ICC will wither and collapse, which should be our objective.
This was the opening salvo of a very aggressive anti-ICC campaign by the United States to discourage other governments from joining the ICC.
The Bush administration went on an ideological jihad against the International Criminal Court. The U.S. told governments that unless they returned any U.S. citizens sought by the International Criminal Court, those governments would lose all economic and military assistance.
John Bolton took an act which withdrew us from the world stage, was a death knell to our leadership in international justice. The United States truly was, in the 1990s, the leader in international justice in the world. We were sort of judicial carpenters, helping to build and support several courts.
The International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia is now in session.
The prosecutor versus Slobodan Milosevic.
The Yugoslav Tribunal, the Rwanda Tribunal, those were carpentry exercises that we took great pride in. We not only were part of shaping the International Criminal Court, it has the United States written all over it. We should now be part of it permanently. By joining the International Criminal Court, I think we will start to remind ourselves that these are our values, and we're going to stand with governments that believe also that they will not plan and execute those kinds of crimes.
Those who support the International Criminal Court pray for the election of administration that will re-sign the Rome Statute and hopefully have the Senate ratified. That'll be a cold day in hell before that happens.
I think in the Bush administration there's a feeling early on that they were just going to stop the court, that the court couldn't exist without the Americans. It didn't stop us from doing what we needed to do. We represent interests that are much broader than the United States.
El fiscal estaba investigando uno de los conflictos más violentos del mundo, una guerra despiadada en el este del Congo.
And then I focus in Congo. Why in Congo? Because in Ituri in those days were more or less 3,000 killings allegedly committed after the court became operational. So Ituri, Congo was the worst situation under my jurisdiction.
Se estimaba que más de 4 millones de personas habían muerto en el Congo como resultado de la guerra. Era el peor conflicto desde la Segunda Guerra Mundial. En el 2004, las fuerzas de paz de las Naciones Unidas habían tomado control de Ituri, Congo.
The whole area has been totally disarmed. The area is quite secure. Even I and my troops are moving freely on foot and on ATCs also in the surroundings.
I worked in the Congo after we had more or less wrapped up the Uganda investigation in terms of getting it to the point where there were arrest warrants. The Congo is a much more difficult operating environment. It's much less safe than Uganda. There were times when we were trying to figure out, are we being too aggressive in sending people out there and we're endangering them, or are we making excuses so that we don't have to go to the field as often as maybe we should be going?
I would say that danger is part of our work. You're taking this risk with you because you're not doing charity. You're investigating crimes, especially in a situation where there are no infrastructure, the state is not present, and our presence as ICC has to be very limited, and we have to keep a low profile.
We had to stop not just the criminals, also those who are fueling the conflict. There's a business there, so people are trying to make money with this, so they are trying to control gold mines in Ituri, different business. But at the end, the same method is use the natural resources to buy weapons and then control the territory to do more business.
In the Congo, the conflict is very hard to penetrate. It's not a binary conflict. It's not like Uganda where it's the Lord's Resistance Army against the government. You've got like 9 different players at any given time, switching allegiances, switching leaders. So first you respect that other people know more about the conflict than you do.
Parce que jusque-là, les gens, après cette guerre ici, les gens vivent toujours froidement. Les violations qui étaient commises chez nous, dans notre pays, sont des violations qui étaient assez graves. Ils ont encore le sentiment là de l'impunité. Ils remarquent que voilà, mon bourreau est tel. Il n'est pas puni, il n'est pas arrêté. Et c'est un sentiment de frustration qui est dans les gens.
Ndio, ni kweli lazima wakuwe jije, kwa sababu tunasikia tribunali ya Cour Penale Internationale iko lazima wawafunge na wawasambishe. Hatuwezi kuacha bure, lazima wawasambishe.
Los investigadores de la CPI encontraron evidencia de atrocidades masivas perpetradas por distintas facciones de la guerra.
We initially did an analysis of which groups were responsible for the most crimes and the most deaths, and that's how the first investigation became of the UPC group.
But to focus the investigation on the top people. Thomas Lubanga Dilo is the leader of the most dangerous militia in Ituri. The serious allegation that he conducted campaigns that produced massive killings, abduction of thousands of kids, transforming them in killers or in sex slaves.
Mientras la corte armaba su caso contra Lubanga, las autoridades del Congo lo detuvieron inesperadamente, pero era incierto hasta cuándo.
I knew to arrest Lubanga I had to move my case fast, so I had strong evidence about Russian soldiers. I was not ready to prove the connection between Lubanga and some of the killings and rapes, and then I decided to move just with the case I had proved.
These are crimes that have gone unrecognized for a long time. Nobody has stood up to say that the people who are doing this has to be punished. It is almost being taken as common practice. But it is not common. It is a crime. Initially, my attraction to becoming a lawyer was just fascination. In Gambia, we're still dressed in our robes and wig and everything, so initially that's what it is. From a very early on stage in my career, I realized that women, or victims of these crimes need a voice to express what has happened, also need justice. At the time I joined, I was a state counsel, state attorney, and I rose through the ranks, and eventually I was appointed as Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Gambia. And I think this has adequately prepared me for what I'm supposed to do now.
La fiscal suplente Fatou Bensouda y el equipo de la fiscalía sabían que Tomás Lubanga estaba detenido en el Congo, pero no sabían si el gobierno del Congo cumpliría la orden de la corte y entregaría a Lubanga a la CPI.
One of the groups that mainly had a very strong lobby for this court to be created was the Africa group. They wanted this court to be created because Africa was also sending a signal that we also want to end impunity.
El gobierno del Congo cooperó. Lubanga fue entregado a la CPI y enviado a La Haya.
All rise, we will leave it. The International Criminal Court is now in session.
Could security please bring in Mr. Thomas Lubanga Dilo, please?
This was a historic moment. All the negotiations and the pain and the stops and the starts, this was both a fulfillment and a beginning.
Mr. President, honorable judges, during the previous century, millions of people, many of them children, were victims of unimaginable atrocities. The International Criminal Court symbolizes the hope that by ending impunity for such crimes, we might prevent their occurrence and contribute to the peace, security, and well-being of the world. The case we intend to prosecute against Thomas Lubanga Dilo represents a key step in the realization of this hope.
Mr. President, Your Honors, this is a case about children. And this is a case about young children under the age of 15 years having been conscripted, having been enlisted, and having been used to participate actively in hostilities. And it is the case about the criminal liability of Thomas Lubanga Dilo.
Miliua batu mingi vile. Ilikuwa mbaya sana. Hiyo pinga wote kama uona pona na pona.
Kopa kwenda vile kumobaya. Tulipenda tuenda.
Tukwenda kule kufa kuna pona kwa shasi yako.
Thomas Lubanga Dilo made the children get military training. Thomas Lubanga Dilo made them train to kill. And Thomas Lubanga Dilo let them die in hostilities. Many, many children.
Mimi nilipata tu nyumba kule. Tuliona tu kule tu pesa kazi.
Si palipendana vile palikuwa vile show tulikuwa tuelera de vitesse.
Mimi palipenda. Ikiatu ya nguvu ndio kwa kamata watu.
Sexual crimes are crimes that are mostly shrouded in silence. Nobody listens to them. They don't have a voice. It is us, as prosecutors, whether at national or international level, who will give them a voice, who will listen to their story and translate this into the evidence that we present in court, and we give them a voice.
Then that young children are very willing to obey military orders without thinking about the consequences. And then that young children are able to learn easily